So these prophetic branches that are in Genesis are affecting us now. Let's have a look at that in a bit more detail. The events of Genesis are affecting us, or were affecting us yesterday, and they are affecting us today, and they will affect us tomorrow. So it is of great importance that we understand the events of the book of Genesis in far greater detail. The events of Genesis affect us today. Let us look at some examples. The events of Genesis affecting us now are, for example, the creation of Adam. We are here. Adam's fall. We are sinful. A Saviour shall come. Yeshua has come. World judgment, the flood. The world is also heading for judgment. The Tower of Babel. The world is trying to unite again without God. Thus the League of Nations, the United Nations, Babylon. It is that's where it's heading. The League of Nations, the United Nations, is eventually heading towards Babel, the literal amalgamation or world empire. Yeah, where we read of that in Daniel, the book of Daniel. The image of Nebuchadnezzar. This is the false unity, not under Yeshua HaMashiach, but this is an alien or demonic or satanic unity, a unity without the Torah and without Yeshua HaMashiach. And so we haven't seen the end of Babel. We're going to see it in terrible form in the last days eventually. And the call of Abraham to become a father of many nations, that's in effect now. You know, Isaac and Ishmael. Islam is practiced by Ishmael and many of the other Arabs as well. And that's certainly affecting us now, isn't it? And Jacob and Esau, or Israel and the New World Order. The New World Order is really Edomite, and it has its roots in Babylon and Egypt, but the literal seed that is behind it you'll find is Esau in particular. And Israel's sons, especially Joseph and Judah, this is the topic of this presentation. The house of Israel in particular. We're going to look at that. So let's recap the family history of Joseph and Judah. First of all, we'll have a look at Joseph's family tree. But before we have a look at Joseph in detail, let's just recap history from Adam to Israel from the book of Genesis. We read of the creation of the world in Genesis 1 on through to 5. We read about the tree in the garden, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and the tree of life, and how that Adam and Eve fell by disobedience to Yahweh's word, listening to the serpent and taking the fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and how Yahweh promised a savior, or the seed of the woman that will crush the serpent's head. And the results of the fall were that the Adam and Eve now had a sinful nature, disposition towards evil, and they had eyes that were affected and ears that were affected by the fall. And they have the first son that they have is Cain, and he's a murderer, the son of Satan. whether literally or spiritually, he certainly is of his father, the devil, who slays Abel, who was righteous. But Yahweh provides another, a replacement, if you like, Seth. And from Seth, we have the line of that leads to Noah through Enosh, Canaan, Mahalalel, Jared, Enoch, Methuselah, Lamech, and finally Noah. And during the flood, Noah is preserved and the 7 others with him, 8 in total, Noah and his wife and his 3 sons, Japheth, Shem, and Ham. And from Shem, we get the line that leads to Abraham or Abram. And from Shem, we have Arphaxad, Salah, Eber, and Peleg. And during the days of Peleg, the earth was divided, the nations were divided. They were divided into separate regions on the earth through geological upheaval, no doubt, and also through the dispersion of the tribes after Babel. They had different languages. And then a few generations later, we have Abram, who's renamed Abraham. So let's have a look at Abraham now. And Genesis 11 to 25 details Abraham's life. And Abram, which means father, a high father, is renamed Abraham, father of many. And Yahweh promised Abraham to make a nation and nations from him, as numerous as the stars in the heavens and the sand on the seashore. So basically, he's going to replace many of the heavenly host that fell or will fall. And it's really an amazing promise. Abraham believes God and acts accordingly. By faith he traveled to the land of Canaan, which was later possessed by Israel. So he's tested in many ways, but although he doesn't obtain all the promises, he believes God. For example, he doesn't actually end up owning all of Canaan. He just manages to own a place to bury his wife. But he looks for a city whose builder and maker is God. That's what we're told in the New Testament, the heavenly Jerusalem. Abraham is tested terribly when the promised son, Isaac, that he waited so long for, that Yahweh asks to sacrifice him. Of course, Yahweh is testing him to see whether he'll be obedient, and as he raises up the knife, Yahweh sends his angel to prevent him. And this is a picture of Yahweh, the Father, sacrificing his Son. And it's a picture of all of us. We all need to bring ourselves as living sacrifices so that we can enter in with Yahweh. It doesn't mean we all got to start cutting our sons to pieces. It's symbolic. So Abraham's miracle son Isaac is born, and that's after Ishmael, Isaac's brother, who's really the son of the flesh. And Ishmael is the father of many of the Arab nations, not all of them. And he's characterized as a wild donkey or wild donkey of a man, or a wild goat or some sort of creature. The son of the flesh. And that doesn't mean an Ishmaelite can't come to Yahweh. Anyone that will humble themselves and obey the God of Israel and his laws and his Messiah certainly can enter into covenant relationship with the maker of the universe. But the Ishmaelites were not the children of promise, but Isaac was, and Abraham was asked to sacrifice him. And as said before, Yahweh prevented him from having to do that. And Isaac marries Rebekah and is the father of Jacob and Esau. So this is in Genesis chapter 17 and chapters 21 to 35. So Isaac's son Jacob, Yaakov, is born, and we have his life detailed in Genesis 25 to Genesis chapter 50. And Jacob desires the things of God, unlike his profane brother Esau or Edom, here characterized or pictured as the goat. He's not a very happy goat, because Jacob has got the birthright and the blessing. And Esau's not too happy about that, although Esau didn't really value those things anyway until he lost them. Jacob marries Leah and Rachel. He wrestles with the angel when he has to come back to the land of Israel. He has to wrestle with the angel, and that angel really is Yeshua. He's not an Edomite, but the angel of Yahweh blesses Jacob, and we need to wrestle with the angel of the Lord, and we need to obtain the blessing personally. We all need to have our Peniel, our meeting with Yahweh, to come face to face with the Mashiach. And Jacob is saved by God, and his fears prove unfounded by the grace of God. Esau's 400 men that come to prevent Jacob from coming into the land are placated, but not through Jacob's tricks, but through Yahweh's favor. Jacob is renamed Israel and becomes the father of the 12 tribes of Israel through Leah and Rachel and their 2 maidservants. So Rachel and Leah, Jacob's 2 wives, they have 2 maidservants or handmaids, Bilhah, Rachel's handmaid, and Zilpah, Leah's handmaid. And through Rachel, Leah, Bilhah, and Zilpah, Jacob has the 12 sons, which become the 12 sons of Israel, or the 12 tribes. From Leah, we have Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun. And from Bilhah, Rachel's handmaid, we get Dan and Naphtali. And from Zilpah, Leah's handmaid, we get Gad and Asher. And from Rachel herself, who has many problems trying to conceive, but eventually does, and gives birth to Joseph and later Benjamin. And although she doesn't have many sons, Joseph is promised to be very fruitful through Jacob's blessing of Joseph, and the trials that Joseph goes through fits him for that honor. Jacob also has a daughter, Dinah, through Leah. So these are the 12 tribes of Israel, or Jacob renamed Israel, which means prince with God, or someone that is straight. Yes, yeah, so Yahweh makes someone straight out of someone a little bit crooked, but who desired the things of God, unlike his profane brother Esau. So that's a little bit of the history of the